don't think I'm alone in saying I've wanted a new Atraxa card for a long time. I've really looked for something to be at the helm of a Phyrexian-based commander deck, something that's acting like a lord for the tribe or has any sort of synergy with Phyrexian types. Well, we got Atraxa spoiled today, and while that card didn't give us exactly what we want, it did spoil something huge, the possibility of a new card type in Magic the Gathering. Let's look at that new card type and what it might be, and also take a look at Atraxa and see what we think of the Phyrexian Horror Angel returned. The video starts right now.
Highest level of gratitude to our patrons who power the channel through Patreon. Check out the Patreon link in the description to learn about monthly giveaways, VIP Discord access, and even our official playmat.
Hello and welcome to the day. Thank you for spending your time with us. Welcome back to another episode of Jake and Joel Are Magic. I am Joel. We are starting this one on a weird place. We're starting this video with Tarmogoyf. Let me tell you why. Tarmogoyf is one of the first examples we have of a card type being spoiled on a card before that card type is actually in the game. If you look at Tarmogoyf, this is the first version of it we ever saw. Down there in the reminder text, the card types are Artifact, Creature, Enchantment, Instant, Land, Planeswalker, Sorcery, and Tribal. You may look at this reminder text and go, yeah, duh, Planeswalker, that's one of the card types. But at the time, this was a very mysterious thing, like the new card type is now. We've also got it on Eye of Ugin. Colorless Eldrazi spells you cast cost 2 less to cast. At the time, this came out in World Wake. We did not see any Eldrazi until the next set. So we got this spoiler within a previous set on a card that we had not seen a card type for yet. We also recently got it in Dominaria United in a small way with a Karn Planeswalker that makes Power Stones, and everybody's like, what is the deal with Power Stones? Why are we even talking about these? And then in Brothers War, we saw that that was a huge mechanic. So today, we had a little bit of a spoiler for Atraxa Gran Unificadora. We got the Spanish version. It's got Flying, Vigilance, Death Touch, Lifelink. When it ETBs, you get to look at the top 10 cards of your library, and you get to put a card for each card type from among them into your hand. We'll talk about the Atraxa a little bit later, but I want to look at this reminder text down here at the bottom. Artifact, Battle, Creature, Enchantment, Instant, Land, Planeswalker, and Sorcery. That says Battle. The battle card type, we haven't seen this before, and they're being very coy. They're playing this one tight, close to the chest. They don't want us to know about it yet. So a lot of people have been speculating, what is a battle card type? Could it be like a plane? We've seen Planes Chase before. If this is a set that's going to be taking place across the entire multiverse, it might make sense for us to go to Grixis, for us to go to the Emmersturm. Is it Steam Maze? Kessig? You know, all over the entire multiverse is where this battle is going to be taking place. But with the whole Plane Chase thing, you need a specific die. They've already used this type of mechanic. I don't know that I'm confident that they would just be reworking an existing mechanic like Plane Chase to be what a battle is. We also could just be looking at an enchantment type like Mirrodin Besieged. This depicts a battle. When it enters the battlefield, you choose Mirrodin or Phyrexian. You get some kind of benefit based on which one you choose. You could have some sort of like Mirrodin Besieged, but for both players. When it enters the battlefield, you choose a side and the other player gets the other side, something like that. Not exactly sure how it'd be represented on that. We might also just be getting a saga. A saga kind of makes sense for this. We've literally got cards, sagas, that depict battles. And the course of the battle or the outcome of the battle, whatever the history of that is in the lore, is depicted across the different stages of a saga. But the most convincing thing I have seen so far is from an article from Mark Rosewater in April 15th, 2019. Now, this is the Making Magic article about War of the Spark. And look, this is pretty awesome. Down here in this paragraph, it says, after much reflection, I've come to the belief that the audience knowing about the failure of a mechanic in the design only fuels their desire to one day see us do it. This is probably what we're going to be seeing. With that said, it's time to talk about Skirmish. At the time, they called it Skirmish. Now it's going to be called Battle, and I really think this is what we're going to get. Let's take a look at this. The idea behind Skirmish was that we wanted there to be a battle between you and your opponent. This battle would be overlaid onto the game and would generate effects that affected the game. The second technology that Skirmish used was first seen on the Monarch token on Conspiracy. This uses an external card as a game piece that outlines its own rules. Now, we've since seen this with Dungeons. This is an entirely different card type. It doesn't have anything to do with the actual MTG game, but it does represent a different location happening in the course of this game. Uses an external card as the game piece, outlines its own rules. The cards that generate the Monarch token or the dungeon don't tell you what to do, it just generates the game component and then explains itself. Skirmish would do the same thing, which was to generate a skirmish token, meaning any card with the skirmish mechanic would automatically have create a skirmish if one hasn't been created yet. The skirmish token had a tiny game board on it showing a field of combat. When you perform one of the stated conditions, you advanced on the field toward your opponent's side, and if you advanced far enough, you won the skirmish. You would do this because there was a payout for winning, a generated effect. Skirmish went through a lot of variations with a lot of different advancement conditions and a lot of different payouts. Main advancement was tied to dealing combat damage. They want the skirmish to be a sub-game to tie directly into the main game, and combat seemed to match the flavor perfectly. You were fighting a war, so you wanted to deal damage. The trigger only cared that you dealt some combat damage, so there was no difference between one creature dealing damage or many dealing damage. The other most commonly used advancement condition was the casting of a card with skirmish. This sounds a lot like Dungeons to me. This was important because the first skirmish card you played started the skirmish subgame, but we wanted later cards to be relevant to encourage you to want to play a bunch of skirmish cards in your deck. Most of the time, we had a third advancement option, condition. We tried damaging players with spells, but that rewarded red too much. We tried Eternals and Zombies, but that only rewarded certain colors. You'll remember that creature type from War of the Spark. We tried playing multiple spells in a turn, but that didn't thematically feel right. And come on, Storm players, you don't need anything else. The one that felt best was advancing when you cause an opponent's creature to die, but this complicated processing combat damage. Just want to note they spent months on Skirmish, experimented with many variables, and then they end up, what killed Skirmish wasn't that we didn't like it or that it wasn't fun, but it didn't capture the essence of what we were trying to do with the set. So they experimented with pulling up the Planeswalker theme. And now we know in hindsight that that is exactly what that set's driving mechanic ended up being. So that brings us to March of the Machines. If this is a mechanic that is getting teased in the prior set, Phyrexia, all will be one. March of the Machines, from the promotional material we've seen, we know this is happening all over the place. Just in this picture alone, we've got Kamigawa, we've got Kaladesh, we've got Strixhaven, we've got Ravnica, we've got Kaldheim, all represented in one big picture. Same thing here. We've got Innistrad represented, we've got Dominaria represented, we've got more Strixhaven represented. So it would make sense to me that since a set is going to be completely dedicated to multiple planes, we haven't seen that a lot before, if ever, having a set that has multiple planes all represented. We're going to get some Strixhaven, we're going to get some Innistrad, we're going to get some Ravnica, we're going to get some Kaladesh, kind of all thrown into one big set, because Phyrexia, they succeeded. The invasion has begun, and they are going through the entire multiverse to try and complete everything. If battle is supposed to represent the battles happening on different planes, it kind of backs up the entire theory that plane chase might be relevant to this, but I think it's going to be a combination of something like Dungeons, something like plane chase, something like sagas, all sort of combined into one. The other piece of this that I think is really justifying the potential for this is that we've got Lord of the Rings coming out later this year as a Universes Beyond product, but we know that this isn't going to be just a couple precons. This is going to be a fully fleshed out draftable set that's also going to be modern legal. It's going to be kind of a master set. In Lord of the Rings, you have got a ton of very iconic battles. So it would make sense to have the battle theme introduced in March of the Machine and then supported in Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth. I think that this is the most apt possibility, the most apt call that I have seen on what the battle card will look like, what the battle card type will be. So let's look at Atraxa. So right here on the subreddit, we've got a translation of it. Thank you, Vent Off My Chest, subredditor on the Magic TCG sub. Atraxa, Greater Uniter. We've got a 7-mana, 7/7 flying, vigilant, death touch, lifelinking Phyrexian Angel. When Atraxa enters the battlefield, you reveal the top 10 cards of your library. For each card type, you may put them in your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Card types are Artifact, Battle, Creature, Enchantment, Instant, Land, Planeswalker, and Sorcery. That's what we've got here. Artifact, Battle, Creature, Enchantment, Instant, Land, Planeswalker, and Sorcery. So, on the surface, as far as breaking down Atraxa, this is a pretty boring card to me. 7 mana, 7/7. Even if it does come with some generic card advantage, it's a flying, vigilant, death-touching, lifelink threat in the air. Yeah, it's a big, dumb creature. But I wanted more out of Atraxa. So putting the battle discussion aside for a second, this is kind of a disappointment as far as an Atraxa card, just for me personally. And let me know down in the comments if you agree or not. If you think this is awesome, that's great. Let me know why. I just wanted a card that was like, look for some Phyrexians. If you got Phyrexians on the battlefield, X. Give all your Phyrexians +1/+1. Just even something like that. You know, I think that that would have been a more fun way to take this design instead of yet another commander possibility that is just generic card advantage out of the command zone. It's also maybe a big threat finisher style card. It's just not exactly what I wanted out of an Atraxa card. That's my personal opinion. But the whole battle card type thing is very interesting to me. Very interesting. Let me know what you think of battle card type, and if you think all of this research, all of these skirmish discussions that I've found on the internet, do you think that's accurate? Do you think you have a better idea, or you've heard something that you think is a more clever idea for battles? Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and let's talk about Atraxa. Were you hoping for a better card? I was. I honestly think that the Phyrexian that is the head of the precon may be more along the lines of what I was looking for, even though it's only 3 colors. I don't know. We've got a lot more coverage of Phyrexia All Will Be One coming up. Make sure you're subscribed. Go jump into our Discord if you want to talk about this stuff. Other than that, I'm tapped out. We'll catch you in the next one.